Donald Trump, the president-elect, has been pledging to create jobs, and it appears he's getting some companies on board with those plans. Now, I spoke last hour with the founder of one of those companies, a company called OneWeb, about the plan that they have to add 3,000 jobs. But it seems like you're saying that there wouldn't be as much in the works had it not been for his conversation with Masayoshi-san.
I'm fairly certain there wouldn't be as much in the works without Donald Trump, without President-elect Trump. He's fanning the flames. He's trying to help grow. He's not going to build the companies himself, but what he wants to do is inspire and create people to, get people motivated to invest and build the jobs, and it seems to be happening.
The former governor of Minnesota joins us, Tim Pawlenty, now. Governor, what do you think of that Donald Trump is inspiring more hiring that would ordinarily take place? There's some criticism, as I'm sure you're aware, that he's taking credit for job additions that he shouldn't take credit for. Where do you come down on all this?
Well, I think people want to be part of something positive, exciting, that has momentum, and looks like it's going to be a fun ride. And so he's setting that tone. That's part of the leadership responsibility and opportunity you have when you have the bully pulpit, as he does. And so setting that tone is important. Now, on the facts, as you mentioned, there's some critics or some news outlets saying these jobs, or a chunk of them, particularly the ones relating to Sprint, were announced earlier, so he can't really take credit for it. But nonetheless, setting the tone as a leader is an important dynamic, and he's doing that, and I give him credit for it.
With this guy at OneWeb, Greg Weiler's his name, the CEO, basically what he told me was this Japanese investor, Masayoshi's son, was going to make an investment in his company. He liked the company, and he was going to make an investment in it. But that got even bigger once Mr. Trump got involved, and that's why there's more jobs than previously had been talked about. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? I mean, you always look and you have some sort of a skeptical eye and you think, could there be something we're missing here? But is this all good to you?
I think it's all good. I do think, in a world where the facts get a little blurry as to the timing of what got announced, what was committed, and whether these would have happened in whole or in part anyhow, you got to be a little skeptical. Like you say, that's healthy. But nonetheless, when you're the leader of the country or an enterprise, you got to set the tone. You got to be the vision caster. And if you've got an upbeat, positive, confident outlook, your team will kind of key off of that. And so if Masa sensed that in Donald Trump and said, look, it's even more positive than I thought, so I'm going to put another increment to the positive on the table for this deal, that's great, and we should celebrate it.
So big picture, we look at things next year, the next few years, what will significantly change in terms of incentives for these companies? You know this in working in government, even on the state level, trying to get companies to stay in your state, whether it's tax incentives or other things. Sometimes it's difficult, in particular for a technology company like the guy that you just heard from OneWeb. Is there other options? You can do things cheaper overseas, and we've been told that some jobs that have left will never come back. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe some will come back. What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, that tone is important, as we mentioned. But if you look at the agenda that Donald Trump is painting forward, tax reform, regulatory reform, health care reform, immigration reform, in an environment where capital formation and deployment will be encouraged instead of discouraged, that's an environment where businesses want to lean into. They like predictability. They like certainty, because if you're going to deploy large amounts of money, make big investments, you want to see a framework. So I think Donald Trump's challenge now will be to move from marketing kind of one-off deals, which, again, are all to the good, to moving to a policy framework that's permanent, predictable, and that people can rely on and invest in. And that's when issues like tax reform and the details of that and actually getting it done are going to be where the rubber hits the road, instead of just kind of one-off deals of individual companies.
Yeah, we're about to talk about that in some detail here in a minute or two, the tax reform question, and also fewer regulations is what a lot of people are also focused on, right? So what should be priority A for the new administration, and what about the odds of getting that done? They do have a lot of control, a lot of leverage in the Congress, right?
Well, any president, even an average president, can get a couple of their top priorities done in the first 100 days or 12 months or so, and I think he's going to be well above average, and he's got a fully Republican Congress, so there should be no excuses for why they can't get all of that done. And tax reform should be the centerpiece. If you want pro-growth, pro-investment, pro-capital formation, pro-capital deployment, and get business people excited about returning or growing in America, that's the centerpiece of that agenda. Of course, there's other things as well.
Right? Can you think about the Obama administration? I mean, if you agree with President Obama on issues, you would point to the first 2 years, right? And that's when he quote-unquote, got things done, had control of the Congress. So same thing here, different priorities.
No question. And again, that list will include not just tax reform, but energy reform, health care reform, regulatory reform, immigration reform, rebuilding the military. And if Donald Trump can even get half of that done, he'll be a very productive president.
But have some priorities in the way you work through it. Good to see you, Governor. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Tim Pawlenty, the former governor of Minnesota.